Hey, it's Terry, your favorite no bullshit artist and business coach, and you're listening to Terry Talks, where we discuss all things taboo, uncovering art industry nonsense, grounding you in confidence and leadership to run an arts business with unwavering power and grit. Hello. Welcome back to Terry Talks. This is Between the Two of Us. It is a series of interviews that really express artists' voices and look at all aspects of the art business and the art industry. Today, we're going to be hanging out with somebody who won the podcast giveaway for live coaching. So today's going to be a live coaching session. I've got a couple of announcements before we get started and before I introduce our guest. So it's December. It is Sagittarius season. And all month long, I'm doing a series of December deals that you can take advantage of. So definitely make sure to hop over to Instagram or make sure that you're on my email list so that you can get a chance to see all of the deals that are coming up and ways to work with me at a super discounted rate and low commitment. So I wanted to make sure that I made that announcement and gave you an opportunity before December 31st when everything expires. So we are hanging out with Anusha, who is an artist in Saratoga, New York. And Anusha is a self-taught event painter and fine artist from Saratoga. She's also a full-time pharmacist, which is kind of amazing. She makes plenty of time for her art practice as part of her livelihood. So these events range from live paintings at weddings to nonprofit events, and also creates art inspired by her Indian heritage, where she spreads awareness to combat colorism in brown and Black communities. Hello, Anusha.
Hi, thanks
That
for
was like
having me.
I love that.
Long,
Yeah. No, that was
long
great.
introduction.
That was really good though. That was very like everything.
Yes.
So you entered the giveaway. We're here.
hmm
I'm super excited to do a live coaching session with you. Tell us a little bit about where you are today, what you've been experiencing, and how
Sure.
long you have been an artist in business. And I know you do work as a pharmacist full time.
hmm
Um, it's just so funny because I meet so many artists who have like very I don't want to say type A, but like super different, like either they're engineers or they're coders or whatever jobs. And then they have
Yeah.
this like eccentric side to them that they're exploring. So tell me a little bit more about how long you've been doing this and what
hmm
you're up to these days.
So I started like getting back. I've been painting forever, like even like all through like elementary school, middle school, high school, and then I started getting back into like creating custom artwork and custom paintings in pharmacy school. Probably around like 2012, 2013 as just like a little side gig during like the spring break, summer breaks and things like that, like random little paintings here and there. And I would barely charge any like 25, $30 for them. But back then that was like I don't know, so cool to me that somebody would actually want me to make something and they would actually like hang it up like that I made. So
You
I
exchange for
started
money.
doing that. Yeah, exactly. So so then in 2017 I graduated pharmacy school and then got like my first pharmacist job, and then I started like painting more and more, and then I started joining all these local art shows in the Albany, New York area. And back then I was painting a lot of like celebrity portraits, and that was like so big back then. That's what caught like a lot of attention to my art, like a lot of like Biggie Smalls, like Tupac, um, J. Cole, things like that. And so I would get a lot of commissions and special requests for those kind of paintings. And eventually I got into live wedding painting and then registered my business because obviously like doing weddings and big events, you kind of have to be
Yes.
more legit, like have a business license.
That's
And
a bigger dollar amount for sure.
yeah, exactly. So then I like obviously had to take myself more seriously, create a website, take my Etsy seriously. Um, and then COVID hit. So then it was weird because like a lot of businesses didn't do well in COVID, but for some reason I had everybody wanted to buy art. I guess they were just like at home doing nothing and wanted to decorate their homes with, and then they all got dogs, so then they all got pet portraits and little ornaments made. So that was really cool. And but I felt like I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. My
It's okay.
I'm like so like everything's just like resting on top of everything on my desk right now. So I'm literally like resting my phone against like a paint bottle.
It's
That's how like
okay.
unorganized my studio is. So obviously I was painting ever since I started. I was painting based off special requests, like all commissions. I wasn't
Oh,
really,
wow.
yeah, creating like too many things for myself or creating like based off like topics I wanted to create. I did know like specific things. Like I love bright colors. I did want to incorporate like my culture and my experiences as an Indian American growing up here into my artwork, but I just didn't know how to do it. And I also didn't know like would there be a market for this kind of artwork, because I also live in upstate New York in
Yeah.
Saratoga, so it's not like very diverse at all. So like my particular market is not where I live. Um, but I slowly started like doing this like rule someone taught me. It's like one for you, one for them. So like I would create a painting like whatever I wanted, whether it's sold or not, I would just have it, and then I would take a commission, like so I would get paid to do that
Love
commission.
that. I
Yeah.
love
So it's like a
that.
little rule I had for myself, just so
That's a
you
great
don't get
balance.
burnt out. Yeah, exactly. It's like good to have that kind of balance, especially when you're not a full-time artist too, because again, like it was COVID. I was working in the ERs. I was like wearing a respirator 8 hours a day. I was like working evenings. Like I had to do some like overnight shifts, like in hospitals back then.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of like like balance. Now I'm like really lucky. Like I finally got like a remote pharmacy job where I don't have to. I save just. It's still a lot of work, like because I have to be present 40 hours a week, but I'm saving time on like commuting and getting
Yeah.
dressed in the morning and things like that. You know.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. All of that makes sense. And you recently went to Miami Art Week. This was your
Yes.
first major art fair.
Yeah.
Give me like a 2-second recap on your experience. Would you do it again? Like right fit, things like that, because obviously art fairs are have really blown up. I feel like
Mhm.
they might be steering towards the saturated markets now, and people are looking at art fairs and we're like kind of wondering where that's going to go in
Yeah.
terms of like a new way of selling art, a new way of marketing yourself, whether
Mhm.
you're represented by a gallery or you're going and you're really investing those, there are a couple $1,000s obviously for a booth. So
Yeah.
tell me,
Exactly.
share what your experience was.
So this was exactly my first time. Like I said, I wasn't a full-time artist. I didn't have much knowledge. So I'll share my experience as a first-time artist. So I was represented by a gallery, and I did Red Dot Miami. So that was one of the many art fairs there. So basically what you have to do is you have to ship your artwork in yourself. Like, since you're with the gallery, they'll install it for you. But you still have to make a significant time commitment to actually fly out there, be present at the art fair with your work, and then make sure your artwork's all packed up and ship it out. So I would say like you need to invest about a week of your time to actually physically fly there and be there, which can be challenging if you have a full-time career or you have a family, to be like
Yep.
completely in another state, and take into cost of your Airbnb and hotel costs, food costs for an entire week, plus the gallery, the fee, which is a couple grand minimum to be a part of a fair like that. If you don't go the gallery route, you can participate by yourself and buy an entire booth for yourself. And I know for Red Dot, I spoke to another artist who paid like 11,000 for her booth. So
Wow.
it is like a little more expensive to have all that space just for
Yeah.
yourself. But you're in charge of like getting the artwork there, installing it, having your like your all your
Like full
nails, like
autonomy.
everything. Yeah, you
Yeah.
have to be Bob the Builder at that point, like with
Right.
so that's something I definitely could not do, because I could not get there on Monday, and like, then I had to like the all the paintings with me, so I shipped mine. That was a horrific experience, because I'll tell you, as an artist, like shipping your paintings, you're already nervous because like those things are very valuable to you. And FedEx like didn't. I paid all this extra money and they didn't deliver it on time on installation day, so that was like a huge stress for me and a lot of other artists in my gallery. So I would like recommend getting it shipped, as like for next time if I do this again, I'm gonna get it shipped ahead of time, like before Thanksgiving, to someone's house in the local area and have
That's
them just bring it. Yeah. So any
yeah,
art fair
because
you
if you
do,
don't have, yeah, if you don't have those connections directly
yeah,
in Miami, you kind of just gotta like,
wing it. And that's what I did. I just winged it. And I was like, oh crap, like
yeah.
I'm gonna show up there and none of my artwork is gonna be there, and I'm just gonna be walking around with prints on the street. Like I was like crying the
Yeah.
day before I flew out. I was like, oh my god, my artwork's gonna get there. But and then going back, I was so lucky. Like, and I really did this not to sell my originals. Like not a lot of artists like end up selling originals at these fairs. Like people think like, oh yeah, I'm gonna sell like all these $10,000 paintings and get so much money. And it's really not about that. Miami Art Week is like such a vibe in itself. Like there's so many different events you can go to. People aren't all only collectors that go to these events. They're just like people like, you know what I mean, me and you, other artists, or just people who like to look at art,
Yeah.
and you just build connections with people. I chose to sell prints, so that's how I made some of my income back, is like selling those prints. But I met like a lot of other artists in Miami, and the whole shipping thing was funny because I met an artist in my booth at my gallery, and he took my big box back with him and with his artwork and just dropped it off at UPS for me, so I didn't have to deal with that headache. But it's
Amazing.
yeah, but it's like all about those like connections you make there,
Yeah.
and I think and then marketing yourself as well. Like I met so many artists that I followed on Instagram already who have so many followers, and I was like, oh my god, like you're at Red Dot Miami too, or you're at Spectrum. Like, can I take a picture with you? Like it was just so cool to be in that whole environment. So I think it's definitely like your expectation going in. Like I didn't expect to sell artwork, so if you expected to sell all your paintings and sell out, I feel like it would be a little disappointing for people. But I really just went for just the connections, the vibe, getting out of upstate New York. It was like snowing here, so I was like, haha,
Yeah.
suckers. Like I'm in
Yeah.
Miami.
You are upstate for sure. I
Yeah,
think that, Miami Art Week has definitely become kind of a commercial zone. So
definitely. Yeah.
it's almost like each booth has its own little commercial going on.
Mhm.
And yeah, I found that any art fairs that I've visited as just a patron, or a potential art buyer, um, is usually just a beautiful networking, spirited environment.
Yeah.
And you obviously hope that you're going to reap the benefits of making your money back from the booth, right? Because these are serious investments. Not
Mhm.
everyone's walking around with $11,000 for a booth or
I
five
know.
grand, and I think that it says a lot about you that you went, and kind of out of your comfort zone to like experience all of this, including the
Mhm.
things out of your control and in your control and all of that stuff. So thank you for sharing that. I think that our
Oh,
listeners
absolutely.
and that's like an interesting take from someone who kind of just went in cold.
Yeah.
Because now, it's almost like other art fairs might be a piece of cake in some ways. Miami,
Mhm.
it's a week long, and that's different because like the other art fair or Superfine or some of the other ones are like weekend long. You know what I
Right.
mean? Kind of like, that's what it is, Thursday through Sunday, maybe.
Yeah.
Um, so let's get into some of the challenges that have been coming up for you. I know that when we spoke on our consultation call, one of your goals is to kind of elevate where you are showing your artwork
Mhm.
and how you are presenting yourself in an elevated professional manner and in different environments. So when I talk to my clients about an art event versus an art show, right? An art show is something that is designed specifically for the artist and the artwork in mind with nothing else. There is just a focus and a centralized, you know, view of just the artwork, right? An art
Okay.
event is something that has lots of activations. So similar to like a Miami week, right? Like
Mhm.
you said, there are lots of things going on. So it's not just the artwork there. People can walk through that, but then they can go into an installation. They can go probably see a movie. They can probably go and see, a screening or go into a pop-up shop, right? So there's other things, and to me sometimes events, depending on what event you're involved in, whether it's a group show, sometimes it can water down the art exhibit. And this is
Mhm.
just my personal opinion, right? Sometimes it can distract people from the buying aspect, or the seriousness of just focusing on the work. Now, at an art show, as opposed to like maybe that they're the only activation at an art show would be like a serious art talk. The opening, the month long that it's up, hoping that things are selling, people are walking through the doors, and all that they're focusing on is your work and taking that in and looking at your artist statement and thinking about what concepts you're working on, how people are connecting to that. Those are two totally separate things. And when you get to a point where you've done enough art events,
Mhm.
you're kind of like, okay, I'm ready for like some white walls and I want my work on them, and I want them to stand out, and I want people just to focus on that. I don't want anyone
Right.
moving to another room,
Yeah, watching a movie.
watching a movie, or to go and listen to a concert, because that
Yeah.
those art events are broken down into agendas, right? They have
Mhm.
the art opening, and then sometimes they have a little like concert or a spoken word thing, and it's like sometimes there's a lot happening.
Yeah.
So tell me what your goals are, what you're looking for, and what challenges you're currently having that we can talk through today.
So so it's a little challenging because I'm also a live event artist. So, but I also I love painting live at events like weddings. But I also, like you said, I wanted to show my work, my work, like my fine art, like my work where I create for myself and things that matter to me, like painting South Asian women and children with darker skin because colorism is a huge part of how my culture and a problem when I grew up, and it's still present today. So those kind of paintings that I don't create for anyone else but myself to sell, I want to kind of showcase those and sell them in art fairs. So where those, like you said, those white walls and everything. But the challenge is which ones are good for me, which ones are gonna, where am I gonna find my collectors, and also the application process for them. So a lot of them, most of them require really like all the images of your work, artist bio, an artist statement, which are two different things. I didn't know that. So, and then artist resume. So that's also hard because I can't write like I have an MFA from whatever, like RISD or what, you know what I mean? I have a PharmD. Like, does that go in my resume? You know, like, no, they don't care that I'm a pharmacist and that like I know
It's
the
an
difference
interesting
between
fact.
Tylenol. Yeah, but
Interesting
ibuprofen.
fact.
Like, yeah. So it's those things. It's like, how do I set myself apart? Because a lot of times you see, and I've gotten rejected from local shows here in upstate New York. And it's like, and then you see paintings that got selected, and then you're like, wait, but like my work's also good, and like, but it's very subjective, you know what I mean? So it's like, how do
Yes.
you market yourself, and how did you make your application strong? Because it's not always about like talent, you know, it's about your presentation of your application materials and your work and yourself. So
Yeah, because when people are reviewing your applications, when people are looking at your work, you're not going to be there. You're
no,
not
no.
going to come out of the screen and be like, "What's up? Let me fill in the blanks for you."
Yeah,
Not how this goes, right? It would be like if we went to the MoMA and Picasso like came out of the bushes. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like that doesn't happen. And so when artists are challenged by the forces that be to write all of these different documents,
Hmm.
and you submit them 100 times maybe to for different applications for different reasons, right? It is like the subjectiveness. It makes you question, well, what was I writing? What did I write? What stood out? What didn't stand out? Right? um Unless some of these organizations are willing to give feedback, it's
Hmm.
very rare. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's rare that they're going to spend the time out of 1,000 applicants that got rejected to email you back feedback.
Right.
Now, when I was a full-time artist, I applied to so more residencies than shows. Actually, that was my
Hmm.
I wanted studio space. I wanted mentorship. Like that was my goal, period. So I would apply to like 50 to 100 residencies, and, got rejected from many. One time I remember applying to the same residency. It was my third time applying to this one particular residency. And I emailed them back and I'm like, I've given you $45 already. Give me feedback. Like, you need to give me feedback at this point. What is
Yeah.
the issue? Like, is my portfolio not developed enough? Did I not answer the questions? Did I not present a proposal that was, fleshed out enough? Like, I'm a beginner. I really wanted that feedback, and not everyone gets that.
Hmm.
They didn't give me the response that I was looking for with any feedback. It was really disappointing. I was like, people apply like over and over again for residencies when they really
Yeah.
want them. So, the silver lining in all of that was that I got a chance to create a really, really solid press kit. with my artist bio, my artist statement, my CV, my 10 JPEGs that were all labeled, right? And I had them
Mhm.
all in my Google folder, ready to go whenever something came up. So that's really what the gift of all of that hard work, came out of there. Now, of
Yeah.
course, over the course of that time, my work was evolving. So I had to keep changing my artist statement. And, I think people forget that unless you're working
Mhm.
with a concept, you know, over 20 years, right? Your work is going to evolve the more you get to know yourself. The different experiences you have. I mean, maybe you take a trip to the West Indies, and you're so like just influenced, and you've had such a big impact there, and you want to start a series on that, right? That artist statement is going to look different. So I think
Mhm.
that when people are starting to really think about showcasing their artwork in a more professional environment that brings more serious buyers, you need to consider, right, what the gallery is asking for, and really reading obviously the application to a T. If they want the JPEGs to be labeled a certain way and they see that
Mhm.
they're not, there are lots of people on those panels that will literally just slide that application away because your JPEGs were not exactly the way they wanted them to be. And that actually did happen to me when I was a young artist.
Oh my God.
You know, it wasn't, I think I had to do it like Terry Froman dot number one dot. It was like this,
Yeah.
a code.
With the title or something, and
Yes,
everyone's different. So you have to keep renaming the JPEGs.
exactly. And it was like the most tedious fucking thing in the world. And I was just like, oh my God. And it was like I didn't do that in sequence, and I remember getting
Mhm.
rejected for that one simple thing. The thing is, they're
Oh my
looking
God.
at thousands of applications depending on what show you were applying for. Maybe you're applying
Mhm.
for a solo show. There's going to be a shit ton of people applying and competing with you for that maybe one spot. And
Mhm.
they want to know that your attention to detail is fucking through the roof. They want to know that you can handle this opportunity. And so I think that when it comes to knowing each component that goes into the application, I think that the to be honest, this is like the dumbest thing that I could probably say, and my listeners are probably going to be like, Terry, we know this, is that people don't read the requirements at all. They don't read the requirements, and they assume,
Mhm.
oh, I just need a CV and maybe like a cover letter, or and then, or they have only 3 images. Well, 3 images
Mhm.
is not going to showcase a panel or the jurors what your portfolio looks like, what your growth looks
Right.
like, right? And so in your case, when you're applying to these, well, I don't know, are you applying for group shows? Are you applying for, like, what do these look
So
like?
the next two steps, I think the next two I'm interested in would be the other art fair,
Yep.
which applications right now are
Yes.
rolling. Like it's going to be due very soon. And then like, the affordable art fair is another one.
Yes.
So
What are
both of
they
those.
asking for right now?
So they're asking for artist statement and artist bio, in a Word document too. So that's like where I always do PDF. So you have to pay
Yes.
attention to that to like Word document.
Interesting.
And then artist resume, and then I think at least 10 images of the work. And not all the work has to be for sale or available. It just has to be
Right.
your like best work. So that's another thing to take into consideration as
Yeah,
well.
and definitely when you are picking those 10 images, it's something I worked with my client. I highly suggest, it's not about picking like the 10 best. It's about
Hmm.
picking the 10 most cohesive, right? So
Right.
it could be that you focus just on your, the concepts that involve your life and involve like
Hmm.
what's inspiring to you, right? It could be a collection or a culmination of wedding paintings that you've done. It could be like, but it's gotta stick and gel. And I think that, in the case where people are mixed media artists, and I know that you're
Hmm.
you're a painter solely, for mixed media artists, it can be kind of confusing because you're like, well, but yesterday I did this collage and today I'm doing this painting with, mesh on top. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't think that it matters so much of like what it necessarily looks like, but can you write about it in a cohesive manner that makes
Right.
sense
That makes sense. Yeah.
to them, right? Um, so yeah, I think that that's number one. And also when you're putting these packages together, I mean, ideally you would be using the same package that you send to the other art fair to another application, and that's
Mm-hmm.
like, and then just tweaking it as you see fit based on those requirements in the application. The other thing that I heard you mention before is about your resume. And
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
the hell to put on your resume if one, you don't have an MFA or I would say uh like an educational training or a standardized training in art.
Mm-hmm.
Um and then the second thing is like that your full-time job has been to be in pharmaceuticals. And so
Yeah.
I think that for a lot of people, that's the case. Definitely. Not everyone gets an MFA. There's so many like self-taught artists out there, or maybe they just minored in it, or maybe they picked it up along the way and now they really want to like put it on blast. What I would suggest is highlighting your accolades, all the events, all your involvement, all your engagement. Um,
Mm-hmm.
any kind of collaborations you've ever done. And it's okay if it's only one page. It's okay. It doesn't have to be super extensive, right? First of all, if I was a juror, I don't want to read something that's super extensive. That's why people say keep
Mm-hmm.
your artist statement to one page and 1.5 space. Keep your artist bio to like a paragraph if you can.
Mm-hmm.
There's just like, if there's too much to read, it's going to get lost in the sauce. And you want to make sure that your artwork is the thing that is speaking the loudest and that every other document is backing it up. If that
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yep.
kind of holding your artwork on stilts. And so
Mm-hmm.
the things that your artwork can't say, your artist statement can say,
Right.
right? Because you're not there. So you're basically
Yeah.
sending them a love letter, and you're just
Yeah.
like, hey, like this is where I can fill in the gaps. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so what are your thoughts on that? What's coming up for you right now?
Just what so like so many events like one thing that's coming up for me that I know not many people are going to think about is in my artist resume I have a gap from like to the, like during COVID,
Yeah,
like when there was no art events, and
yeah.
when I was like looking at my thing I was like, oh, I'm adding all these things from 2022 to 2023, but there's really like from 20 like almost 2020 to 2021 and even some of 2019 I like there were no in I didn't do any in-person events, and I don't think a lot of people
No,
did. Like, I mean, I hope you guys didn't because like COVID.
right.
Um, but like that also, it's like, oh my God, you feel so like insufficient with like all these random gaps, and you don't know like what things like I did like local little shows in the towns I've lived in upstate New York or Western Mass, and then Red Dot Miami is like the biggest one. So
Right.
like, it's like, do I like put those at the same like
Yeah,
level? You know what I
you
mean?
you do because it shows that you've been active consistently.
Yeah,
You've been
that's true.
you've been activated the whole time. You didn't just like take a nap for a year. Um,
Mm-hmm.
that you were still like studying your craft, that you were still like fully engaged, that you were still doing your research, because I consider some of those small craft fairs research. It's market
Yeah.
research. You're analyzing who's buying, you're analyzing what's selling. So for
Mm-hmm.
me, I think that if I was looking at a resume that had a gap, I would question, well then what was happening during that time? And if it was a full-time job, then that obviously should be in there. I don't think that we should hide, necessarily what else we do. We're all multifaceted people. And I think
Right.
that when we apply for these shows, there is sort of a given that we either are doing this full time or
Mm-hmm.
there's income coming from other places. And
Right.
I am someone who always wants to know, well, how are you making a living? Um, how are you supplementing your income, and how is it all kind of coming together? What are your goals? Are your goals to become a full-time artist? Is your goal to make it your full-time job and then have kind of a side part-time job that's passive income. For you,
Mhm.
you mentioned having a website. You mentioned having an Etsy, and that some of your sales were going, were up there. Your commissions were popping. There were different things that were
Mhm.
happening. So doesn't sound like it was necessarily a stale moment for you. I think
No, it just looks like on paper, like,
exactly.
so yeah.
So I think that if you can figure out a way to describe that in your CV, where maybe you input, a section where it's like, well, um, where the places that you're selling, you might have to be creative with the formatting of the resume. Maybe it doesn't look like a
Mhm.
typical resume, because I would want to see, okay, well, where is this person selling? How are they building their arts business? How are they staying active? Who's buying from them? And so I think that
Mhm.
those are ways aside from events. Um, and just like, here's the date of the event, but you do have a collection of things that you've done and experiences that you've had. And it will look like a gradual movement up, showing that
Mhm.
you just did Miami Week. And I
Right.
think that that's what they're going to look for. Is she moving? Is there movement in her arts business? Does she want to have movement in her arts business? I think that's going to be like kind of the tipping point. In terms of your artist statement, that, like I said, is where you fill in the gaps for what your artwork can't say that you can say. Um,
Right.
and making sure that it's concise and making sure that, I think that whatever you say is going to stand out because your artwork is unique as opposed to the other people. And to be honest, we don't care what the other people, what their artist statements say, because we don't know who they are. And,
Mhm.
it's just about focusing on how particular you can be with your full and holistic application. um, I think that a lot of the times people look at the application as a checklist instead of
Mhm.
looking at it as an ecosystem to your arts business. And when they think about, okay, how does my art resume look next to my artist bio? How does my artist bio correspond to my artist statement, in like a very fluid manner?
Right.
Mhm. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Do
Like, you get to think of it basically as another piece of art and not just like blah blah. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I have like so much. I haven't even started yet because I have so much anxiety, and I have like a
yeah,
month, like a month to do it. So
yeah,
I had to like, but it's like I have all these like thoughts in my head, like about what I want to add in there, and what wording, to add and stuff like that. But I just have to like bang it out but take time doing it because obviously it's like another piece of artwork.
yeah, for sure. But it's something that'll last you a lifetime when you have that skill under your belt and you have that document. It's like,
Hmm.
oh shit, I could just apply to anything at this point. Like,
Yeah,
this is not gonna. I'm not gonna have this anxious feeling when I
yeah.
look at something else.
I had this like anxious feeling without having it. It's like, oh, I'm
Yeah,
not good enough. You know what I mean? I'm not good enough to apply to that. Or like different curators like will be having these open calls for art or online galleries, and they're like they have the same requirements as an art fair, and I'm like, oh my god, well they're not never gonna pick me. So I just like I put it off. You know what I mean? Because I don't feel like I'm as legit as like other artists, maybe if that even is a thing. But
Well, here's the thing. I think it's not even about legitimacy. I think it's about being prepared and being
hmm,
ready for those opportunities, because I see artists let opportunities literally slowly walk right by them because they don't have the pieces ready. They're like, oh,
yeah,
next time. Or, I'm not ready to write that out, or I'm not ready. And it's a case of the readies. You know what I mean? And you could be that way for the rest of your life and then still never meet those goals because you haven't attacked one piece that really is a very important piece. So
hmm,
I know that this episode's going to resonate with so many people who have
yeah.
yet
I hope
to write
so.
their artist yet. Take charge like Anusha, because you all definitely at some point need an artist statement, whether it's for a residency, whether it's for a proposal for an art show, whether it's for a curatorial opportunity, maybe you are asking for funding. All of that is going to require some form of writing. And I know
Hmm.
that that is a huge challenge for a lot of fucking people out there, including myself. But it does get easier. I promise it gets fucking easier. So thank you so much, Anusha, for being
Thank you.
vulnerable and just like letting us dive into, the things that you're working on right now. We wish you luck with these applications. And yeah, if anybody is interested in working with me one-on-one, this was our live coaching session today. I'm going to put all of the information down below so that you can email, you can also look up Anusha, make sure you follow her, and stay tuned to the next episode between the two of us. Thank you so much, Anusha.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.